World Cup mentality. What does it take to perform well under pressure? And I have with me a mentor, one of my closest friends, and someone who is a fellow passionate cricket fan, and someone who's uh, kind of inspired me to also kind of take to doing my own shows linked to my passion, that is cricket. He had his own podcast, which I hope he revives in the near future. Um, an economist by trade, an economist by trade, and someone who was also the former strategist for the Dambulla Giants for 2 seasons. Anouk, it's a pleasure having you once again. We've had you on all three of my shows, the Cricket Analyst, the Icon, and this is a hat trick with the Ion Cricket. Great having you back, Anouk.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
All right, we'll get things underway. My first question to you is linked to your experiences with DG. Um, we've all enjoyed watching cricket from the outside, as spectators, as fans, either watching it live or watching it on telly. What was your take on being there behind the scenes with the team throughout those 2 seasons? Just like an overall assessment of how the 2 seasons went in your books.
I think it's very interesting, actually. It was an interesting experience, and I just want to thank the owners of Dambulla Giants for giving me the opportunity. But I think you really kind of understand like what we as viewers and as fans, when we're on one side of the TV, what we think, and then the stratagems that you'd have to use in game, like in real time. The mindset is not the same, right? And I never appreciated that until I actually got to be behind the scenes with these guys. Because it's not just about understanding, oh, okay, this guy's weak to leg spin, so bring him in the 15th over and then knock the guy down, right? Bowl on middle stump, knock him out on off stump, right? That's the line, and keep a slip and keep a point because he'll go for the cut, right? And miss and get out. When we're watching on TV, it just seems like that's the right answer, right? But then but when you're working with the players, you also need to understand, their psychologies, right? What they believe are their truths, what's worked for them throughout their career or in the recent past, right? And then kind of making them understand, yo, guys, like, this is basically what needs to be done. This guy is showing these technical weaknesses in these situations, so you can set them up by doing this. Uh, Understanding the nuances and the psychologies of the players and kind of how they view the game as opposed to how we view the game as armchair quarterbacks and them as the players. That was a very interesting experience, and kind of adjusting my mind to understand their mindset and then work according to working in terms of giving an output that makes sense to them. That was really interesting. And also the other thing that was really interesting was understanding the personalities, right? Because we only see them on TV and we only see them in advertisements and TV shows or whatever it is that they show up in, right? But then getting to see the real people behind everything else, like understanding their personalities, what makes them tick, and what aspects of their personalities that they actually bring into games, which is readily apparent if you actually just spend a few hours with them behind, like at the hotel. That was really interesting as well.
Very insightful, Anup. Before we get to talking about big game players and players who thrive under pressure, you had quite a few in the DG dressing room. Let's talk about Imran Tahir. Let's talk about a few other foreign players who've been there in various scenarios, be it World Cup semi-finals, World Cup quarterfinals, IPL finals, etc. Um, was their experience invaluable, and did they share their experiences with the locals we had in the DG setup?
Yeah, so actually, it's a good thing that you pointed it out. So Imran Tahir was actually very, very, very helpful, right? And I think all of us showed like respect to him as like the elder statesman and as the man, pretty much in the team. He was very helpful in terms of teaching the spinners about like grips and about mindsets and psychologies and where to bowl your lengths in order to get wickets and in order to contain runs. And listening to him was amazing, and like he worked a lot with like RCK and a couple of the younger spinners in the national in DG at the time in the squad. So that was really nice to see. And more so than anything else, it was the discipline. The man is like over 40 years old, right? And he's so disciplined. It's incredible, right? Like, I mean, he's ripped. Firstly, he's ripped. He's like in excellent shape, and also like strict diet. He'll have dates, nuts, like high protein. It's amazing, and he'll stick to it. Like all the other players, they'll have their their cokes, their beers, uh, their fast food, whatever it is. But Imran Tahir, no, it's like very strict diet, continuous, and he's just very disciplined. He wakes up at a certain time, he goes to sleep at a certain time, but at the same time, he'll also like hang out with the players, speak to them, mentor them. It was interesting and actually really eye opening for me to see the fact that this guy is like he's over 40, right? Like most cricketers finish their careers by the time they're 35, 36, right? This guy is well into his 40s. Him and Shoaib Malik as well. Shoaib Malik was the exact same, but Malik was playing for Jaffna, but he'd hang out with Imran Tahir a lot, in the hotels. So the mindset of these guys, the guys who are blessed to be above 40 and still playing the game at at a high level, um, just they're very disciplined, and I think that's what differentiates them from like the younger players. Because the younger players, they're a bit more loose in terms of their discipline, but they can afford to be um, to some extent, but not really. So it was really nice to see that discipline that they practice from the front, right? And like they weren't the guys who were like, oh yeah, you need to be disciplined, and then they themselves are not disciplined. No, they practice what they preach, and that was awesome to see. So that was really cool by Imran Tahir. That's why we showed a lot of respect to him and his ideas and stuff. The other guys, so Salt at the time hadn't played for England, but when we picked him, he hadn't played for England at the time. So Salt was actually, I really enjoyed having Salt's company in the dressing room because he's just extremely intense, right? In a outside of the matches, he's very chill. He's very chill. He's very calm. He's very cool. He likes to make jokes, and he's a very cool guy, right? But in matches, he's extremely intense, right? So like he just wants to win, and like if he gets out, like I think in the first match he scored 60 off 28 balls or something in the very first match against Candy Tuskers, and he came back to the dressing room after scoring 60, and he was so angry at himself. And we were like, Salt, like, why are you angry? Like, you gave us the perfect start, right? And he's like, no, I should have been 100. Like, this was the pitch I should have scored 100. I can't believe I got up a 63, or I can't remember what it was. It was like 63 or 28 or something. I could be wrong. But it's something like that. And he's like, I should have scored 100 off 35 balls. I should have done it. And like, he always had that intensity, right? And I think that the players, like in the team, actually fed off of Salt's intensity, especially in the first few matches, because in the middle stages we kept on losing matches because of bad strategy. But then that's something I don't really want to talk about. uh, but we had like forward momentum in the first three matches, I think, where we were just playing really well, and then things went south afterwards. And then again we picked up towards the latter stages of the tournament, won the playoffs against Colombo, and then unfortunately Dasun got injured, so we didn't have a full team going into the semifinals, and obviously what happened. So,
And
but
that was whilst Dasun was in good form.
uh, Dasun wasn't in the best of forms in that tournament, unfortunately. Because he was actually, I think he wasn't fully fit when coming into the tournament in the second season. And then he injured his back, like midway through the tournament. I think it was game 6 where he injured his back. Game 6 or game 7. And we didn't have him for the latter stages of the knockouts. So that really was a problem. And that sucked, to be honest. And so that was Salt. Marchand Langer was, he gave really good, like, he had a good mindset. He didn't get to play much. I think he played like 2 or 3 games, and unfortunately, he didn't perform the best he could. But it is what it is. But he always had a very good mindset behind closed doors. Behind, like, when we were in the hotels, when we were just chilling out and stuff, he always had really good like anecdotes of life, and he had a really good presence with the team. Then who else was there? Zadran and Maksud. They didn't really talk much. They kind of hung out to themselves, and they gave their advice, and they spoke and shared their wisdom and stuff. But they weren't as animated as like Salt and Tahir, and those guys. And finally, it was Josh Little. This is before Josh Little became famous. This was right after Josh Little got all our openers out in that infamous Ireland versus Sri Lanka T20 match in the World Cup, where he got Avishka bowled, where he got it was basically Mahendra Wasranga scored a 70. That match.
When we were in a precarious position at 7 for 3.
7 for 3. That's the one.
Position
That's the one. And Josh Little is actually he's I enjoyed Josh Little, like as in having him in the environment as well, because he was just there to learn. He wasn't, because he's a young guy, right? I think at the time he was like in his early 20s, right? So he was just there to learn, and in the nets, like he had this really good presence, right? So like we were trying to like prepare for the left arm bowlers of like the opposing teams, and then Josh Little would just be like, what length do you want me to bowl, right? And he consistently hit that length, right? Like just consistently. It was amazing, and I was just like, wow, this guy, man, this guy is amazing. Yeah. In hindsight, we probably should have given him a few more matches. Because he was on a tear. He was in excellent form in that tournament, and we should have utilized his resources a bit more. It is what it is. But great guy. Josh Little was good fun. So each of those players had like different tools and resources that they brought in, different mindsets and mentalities that they brought in to the squad that kind of amalgamated and helped the squad in different ways, I'd say.
Well said, Anouk. And Aryan from the Direct Hit and everyone else tuning in, feel free to drop your comments and questions. Aryan will take yours up in a moment. Anouk, a final question before we get to the crux of this discussion. There's been a lot of talk about the scheduling blunders linked to the LPL just a couple of weeks before the Asia Cup and the World Cup, which has basically stripped us of our bowling resources. And I wanted to pose this question to you. Two questions, rather. Feel free to take them as follow-ups. Firstly, could you give all our fans tuning in an insight on who runs the LPL? So we know it's the IPG group and not directly SLC. So maybe break that down for us and all our viewers who are exclusively and solely placing the blame on SLC for these scheduling blunders. Does SLC really have a say with when they could hold the LPL? And secondly, on the atrocious pictures we have here in Sri Lanka, Sadira Samaravikrama, after our first game against South Africa in his press conference, said that our bowlers aren't prepared to go up against batting lineups on flat decks. Just those two questions to sum up our discussion around the LPL and Sri Lankan cricket before we move on to the crux of this discussion.
Yeah, so how it works is, to my understanding, and it might have changed now, I'm not sure, but back then, how it worked was that IPG were in charge of the production, and SLC would basically give the dates and the venues, and basically have the overall plan of the tournament was done by SLC and their associates, and IPG would produce the tournament. Now, in terms of SLC having the LPL in July, the reason that I understand it to be is because in December there's just too much franchise cricket happening around the world. So there's the Big Bash happening in Australia. There's what else is there? There's, I think the South African League comes around that time.
The IEL T20 as well, right?
The IEL T20 is there. Yes, that's the one I was thinking of. IEL T20, the Dubai League. So there's a lot of leagues going on at that time. So they don't really want to clash with all those other franchises. So they picked July because at that time I think it's just the 100 that's going on. So and then I think at the latter stages the CPL starts. So it seems like a good time to host the event. And I think they initially always wanted to do it in July because December is so heavy in terms of franchise cricket leagues around the world. But for different reasons, they weren't able to do it in July. I mean, one year was I think COVID. The next year it was our year. It was something I can't remember what it was. And it was meant to be in July, and then they moved it in December. And then the following year, LPL 3 was Argale. And then LPL 4 happened in July as expected. That was this one. So yeah, I mean, having it before the World Cup, I mean, it is what it is, you know. We've lost two of our talisman players, right? Dushi and Panindu. And you can see the difference, right? Our batting lineup is actually pretty good, but then our bowling lineup can't support them. So yeah, it is what it is, you know.
Let's talk about the plight of Sri Lankan cricket on another show soon. The Direct Hit has posed a question, and this would be a good leading question for us to get to our discussion on big game players. So the directive says that youngsters need to be given the freedom to perform, and that Ishan talked about how Rohit Sharma gave him the license to perform both in Mumbai Indians and for India, I'm assuming. But let's start this discussion off with a Kiwi, someone who, in his very first World Cup game, went out to bat at number 3, right?
What a game.
Under pressure, chasing quite a significant target. With Indian roots as well to add to that pressure, playing in front of a jam-packed Indian stadium in Ahmedabad, scores a century, lights the World Cup alight, and is now opening the batting for New Zealand and has been promoted up the order again. What was your take on Rachin Ravindra's knock in the inaugural game of the World Cup?
So Rachin Ravindra actually came to Sri Lanka, like I think 3 years ago. Was it like three years ago on the tour, on the emerging tour?
Yep.
Yeah, I actually watched him live, and I was with Sasha and a couple of others, and we were like, "Who is this kid?" Right? Right? So like how people look at Devol Brevis. I know it's called Devol, but I prefer Devol. It just sounds cooler. Yeah. So like how people look at Devol Brevis and the hype around Devol Brevis, like I saw that in Ravindra like so many years ago, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" Right? But then when I realized that he's a left-arm spinner, I was like, well, he's not going to play for India anytime, New Zealand anytime soon because of Santner, right? But the fact is that they can play him as a supporting left-arm spinner and play him as a top-order batsman. That's amazing, And he was given his chance in the Bangladesh too, and he really performed, right? And it's not easy to play in Bangladesh. So, and New Zealand got destroyed, I think two series ago when they came to Bangladesh. And in last season, I think in the last series they won, and Ravindra did really well. And we were like just talking about, wow, Ravindra is like amazing. And then he comes out in the first match against England and just completely like upends them with Conway. That was amazing. But then a part of me was like, I expected it from the guy, because like I watched this guy live like 3 years ago, and I was just like, wow, this guy's going to be big one day. And then I didn't think it was going to be this soon. So that was a pleasant surprise. Ravindra is amazing. I'm really happy for him.
And my follow-up question to you, and this is where the strategist in you comes out. You've been around teams and environments where they speak about combinations, having left-right combinations when you're out at the center, not having the same types of bowlers, etc. But New Zealand have stripped that mold away. I feel like New Zealand always selects their best playing 11, irrespective of conditions, irrespective of what those combinations look like. Two things. One, they wanted to stick with a left-right combination to open. They stuck with Young and Conway at the top for their first few games, but to accommodate for Williamson coming in, they've dropped Young, promoted Ravindra up to open, so two left-handers opening. Plus, and as you correctly said, you have Santner and Ravindra, two similar bowlers, but both bowling their full quarter of overs. And you have Ish Sodhi, who I predicted to be the leading wicket taker of this World Cup, being sidelined for the first 3 games. So my question to you, Anouk, is there an overemphasis on combinations, matchups, etc.? And is it sometimes just important to pick players who are in form and have that consistency?
I think Sodhi's just unlucky, It's just Sodhi's, and he's world class, right? He's a world class leg spinner. He's amazing, right? Like he's been the consistent wicket taker for many years now. In the recent past, he's just been incredible. But also, you have to understand the subcontinental wickets. What is the deadliest bowling style? You tell me. Statistically, what is the deadliest bowling style in terms of economy and strike rate? Left arm orthodox. Left arm orthodox.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I repeat, like Rangana Herath, Ravindra Jadeja, and all Daniel Vittori in his heyday as well.
Yeah. So left arm in the modern era of cricket, if you look at the statistics, I mean, as of right now in the World Cup, I think Ashwin is leading the bowling economy rates, but like Jadeja is like right behind him. And in the top 11, there's like 4 left arm spinners who are like the most economical.
And Santner is the leading wicket taker right now.
And Santner is the leading wicket taker, exactly. So I mean, of course, we're only in round 3 of the tournament, but still, like the overarching theory is that left arm orthodox is the deadliest bowling style in subcontinental wickets. So and it's proven, right? So I mean, Sodhi is really unlucky to himself. because he's just been excellent. But because these guys have two left-arm orthodox options, Santner, of course, being like one of the best in the world, and Ravindra being like their version of Anouk Welgama, but just a better batsman than Dunit. I'd say Dunit is a better bowler, but Ravindra is a better batsman. So having that utility of having two left armers and then one really good batsman in Ravindra, you can say that it's a plus EV move to have Ravindra play instead of Sodhi, and it's just really unfortunate for Sodhi. EV stands for expected value, right? So what that means is if it's positive expected value, it's actually a better play to make, and if it's negative expected value, then you're losing out over the long run. Positive expected value means you're winning over the long run. So it's a plus EV move, maybe marginally plus EV to have Ravindra over the experience of Sodhi. And New Zealand's been winning, and their balance seems great so far. So I don't really see Sodhi getting a match like over the next few games, and that's really unfortunate for him. In terms of the balance of New Zealand, it's beautifully done, right? It's like clockwork. They have Lockie on extreme pace. They have both on swing. They have who's at Matt Henry on pace. They have two left armers. They have Glenn Phillips on off spin. It's just a very complete bowling lineup. The only thing they're missing is a leg spin.
And don't forget Daryl Mitchell bowling the 50th over today under
Of
pressure.
Of course. Darren Mitchell is there, Dasum Chanaka, right? So yeah, there's an excellent balance.
Well said. And I want to link what you just said with the question posed by the direct hit as well. You spoke of Dunit Wellalage, you spoke of Rachin Ravindra. We'll look at a few other youngsters who've been performing well at this World Cup. Courtesy for South Africa, Jansen for South Africa, taking a few other names into the equation. Harry Brook for England, who hasn't still shone at the World Cup, but is expected to have a very good comp. When it comes to these youngsters, if you're the coach or anyone in the think tank, is there much you have to say prior to a game or prior to a World Cup game? Or do you let them play with a sense of freedom and really dictate terms on the and dictate terms out there without giving them a specific role / objective before they step out?
I think was the guy's name Direct Hit?
Yes.
Yeah. So Direct Hit, excellent question. I love it. Yeah. Love the question. It's amazing. So I want to bring up Matisha Pathiran this one, right? Just they need to be given the freedom. I completely agree with you, right? But I was having this discussion in the gym today, right, with some of my gym mates, and they actually pointed out
a subtle flex there, no? A subtle flex there.
Nothing like that. So we've actually talking about Matisha Pathiran, right, and about his body language between IPL, like last season's IPL, which was like 5 months ago, and him playing for the national team now, right? So, and then some of them are like, I can't understand how this is the same guy. And I was like, I do. I can understand how it's the same guy. There's one reason. What's that reason? Who's he playing for in CSK? Who's his captain?
MSD.
The greatest captain ever, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, right?
Yep.
And in my opinion, Mahendra Singh Dhoni is the greatest captain ever. I don't think it's even close. I think the only people in terms of results that can match him are like Clive Lloyd and Ricky Ponting, but they had the best squad ever as resources, right?
Morgan,
right?
Morgan perhaps quite close to MSD.
Morgan as well, yes. Morgan's actually very good as well. But Mahendra Singh Dhoni stands above as, for me, the greatest. And I was reading this article on Cricinfo a while back, where Matisha actually talks about the influence of Dhoni, right? So I think there was one game where he got absolutely smashed, Matisha. One of the matches he got smashed. And Dhoni was like, kid, don't worry about it. It's cool.
Yep.
I don't care if you got hit in one match. It doesn't matter to me. I want you to bowl here and here and here. Just bowl there. I don't care what happens. If you get hit for 6, you get hit for 6. I don't care. Just bowl there. Trust me and bowl there. You trust my tutelage. You trust my instructions as the captain. Bowl there. That's all I want from you. And Matisha just gained confidence match after match after match. And eventually, he was one of the biggest contributors in CSK winning the title this year, right? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was the emerging player of the tournament as well, right?
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken.
I think he was. I think he was. You guys can check up on that one, right? But either way, like, he was one of the standout players of the tournament, and that's undisputed, right? And what Matisha had there was Dhoni's influence, right? So coming back to what Director had said, right? Youngsters need to be given the freedom, of course, 100%, but they also need to be given the guidance, and they need to have that strong, stable figure up top that will give you that guidance. It doesn't matter what the franchise owners say or what the selectors say or whatever it is. When there's a man like a solid rock like Dhoni saying, no, my way, you do what I say, you're going to be fine. When you have that influence as a youngster, you're good to go, right? You have nothing to worry about. You have one goal, you have one job, get it done. That's it. It's so easy, right? And that's what, like, even when Isham was saying with Rohit Sharma, right? Ishan Kishan was given the license to go for it because Rohit said, look, if you fail, you fail. It's okay. Like, it doesn't matter. We're not dropping you. Just keep going. Your effect on this team is plus EB. If you get going, we score 350 consistently, right? So if you lose and if you get out quickly, we still have Kohli, we still have Kale, we still have Iyer, we still have Jadeja, we still have Hardik to make sure we still get to 300. At like that chasing 300 is still a very, very, very real possibility. But your EV is getting us from 350 to from 300 to 350, and we're not going to drop you for that, right? And that confidence, when a strong, solid rock captain tells you, "Yo, I've got you, don't worry," right? That's what matters. And Matish is one of the biggest examples. And I feel like that's probably what he's lacking in the current Sri Lankan team, which is why he hasn't been able to get the best broad out of him so far.
And when you have that sense of security that MSD gave Matish Patrana, and I saw this during the IPL, whenever Matish Patrana bowled a loose delivery, you'd have Dhoni running up to Patrana, giving him words of encouragement, and you'd see Patrana's body language improve immediately. It was an immediate turnaround. And he was able to deliver spell after spell with absolute consistency. And earned the nickname Podi Malinga by the likes of Ian Bishop, Ravi Shastri, etc. And the IPL is high stakes, is a high stakes environment, right? It can be career defining in both ways. It can help you rise up the ranks, or it could even destroy you and be career threatening if you don't perform. And Patrana Sean, so I'm glad you brought this up because we've had a lot of so-called Sri Lankan fans hurling abuse at Patrana after his poor display against Pakistan. But everyone forgets that he's still 20, and I don't think he's even close to his prime yet, right? The likes of Malinga peaked when they were 25, 26. And I think we'll still call Patrana a youngster in 2027, which shows you how far ahead of his time he is, right? And I wanted to highlight a few other captains who've had that impact. You look at what Morgan did with England after the 2015 World Cup. He would have given that same sense of security to Roy and Bairstow. And I'm sure there were discussions behind the scenes saying, look, regardless of how you two do, you two are going to be my openers in the World Cup in 2019. And it was that sense of confidence and reassurance in his two openers that led to England's resurgence in ODI cricket, or at least when it came to their batting and attacking mindset. You talk about players like Darren Sammy, right? Who trusted players like Samuel Badri, brought him in for a World Cup in 2016. And Samuel Badri single-handedly dominated lineups when it came to those power plays in India in 2016. And those are signs of good captains. I don't want us to delve into a discussion of the strengths and weaknesses of Dasun as a captain. But if you feel comfortable, and I know you've had personal engagements and connections with him through Dambulla Giants, etc. But if you feel comfortable doing so on air, how would you rate Dasun Shanaka as a captain? I know it's a bit of a controversial topic. I know it's a political hot potato / cricketing hot potato in Sri Lanka to talk about Dasun Shanaka's captaincy early on during a World Cup run. But do you have any takes on Dasun as a captain? Because personally, for me, seeing Patrana struggle against Pakistan, if Dasun Shanaka calls himself an all-rounder, I would have protected Patrana and bowled myself in those testing / trying overs in the middle. So, interested to get your take on it.
So when it comes to Dasun, I mean, I know the guy. I mean, I worked with him during my time with DG. I know him professionally. I know him personally. And what I can tell you is that Dasun is a guy that's always been behind.
Sorry, Anouk, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Sorry, Anouk, can you hear me? Bear with us.
Yeah, I
we're
can
having
hear
a few
you.
technical issues. Anouk, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you guys see me? Hi? Hello? 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 No? Mm, nothing? One second. I'll try again.
Yep, I can hear you. Sorry, guys. Anouk seems to be having some technical issues. We'll get him back on air. So, but until he comes back in, I want to speak to you and I want to address the question that I posed to Anouk. Dasun Shanaka was going through a bit of a tough patch ahead of the World Cup. Had a bit of a tough run during the Asia Cup. Hi, Anouk. Can you hear me?
There we go. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yep. Sorry. Go ahead. You can.
Okay. We were talking about Dasun, right? So
Yep.
one thing that so on, I've been one of Dasun's biggest defenders for years now, right? Even before my time with DG, even now I'm one of his biggest defenders, right? Yes, I know him on a personal level. Yes, I've worked with him on a few occasions over the past few years, but that doesn't change the fact that it's not easy to be the captain of Sri Lanka during this period. I think a lot of people don't appreciate, right? I think that ever since Dasun became captain, he's always been behind the eight ball. He's always been having an uphill battle, right? Always. Like, I mean, there were incredible wins during his captaincy. Like, I mean, in 2019, when Pakistan was just rampaging through everybody, right? Dasun takes like a really young team and destroys them 3-0, right? When no one else did that. Yeah. Then won the Asia Cup. I think the last World Cup wasn't very good, the performance, but in the previous World Cups from 2019 to now, we didn't do too bad. We were one of the only teams to beat the world champions in 2019 as well, right? One of two teams, the other team being Pakistan, right? So I mean, uh, so like, oh no, but Dasun wasn't there in that. Was he wasn't there in that, right? He wasn't there. He wasn't there.
It was Dimut. It
He
was
was,
Dimut leading our
it was
guys.
Dimut, it was Dimut. Yes, yes, yes. Dasun wasn't there for that one. But we won the Asia Cup, and we've had some solid performances throughout, right? And
We
we have
beat
to understand.
Australia at home. We beat Australia at home 3-2 as
Yes,
well.
we beat Australia at home. Yes,
Yep.
indeed. Yeah, I mean, we've had some really good performances in there as well. So like, I mean, a lot of people just focus on the bad, right? I mean, and people look at the Asia Cup final like a few weeks ago and they're like, what, 50 all out? Like, come on, right? Like, this is not. I mean, don't forget, we made the finals. We beat Pakistan. We made the finals, right? At the end of the day, we were one of the two teams that made the finals, right? People don't really think about that. They think like, oh, 50 all out. What is this, right? And fair enough, right? But what I'm trying to say is, like, it's not been easy for Dasun as captain over the past few years, and I feel like he's okay. I think Dasun might disagree with me, but I feel like he hasn't hit that level yet where he's just like he's become Dhoni, you know, where he's like, you know what, no, what I say goes, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't care what anyone else says, and because Dhoni had that conviction about himself, it was one of the reasons why no one tried to mess with him, and no one messes with him even now. Dhoni's like a boss, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like Dasun hasn't reached that boss level yet, right? And it's also because of all the battles that he's had to fight over the past few years, right? And it's and that's for I mean and now I think a lot of people are calling for Kusal Mendes to become captain, right? And fair enough, Dambulla he brought them to the finals, and they were table toppers. And then in the practice game, when he was captain, he made some good calls. He's in the form of his life right now. And Mendes has a good mindset when it comes to the game. There's no doubt about it, right? But I think the reason why people aren't, I think the reason why the selectors aren't pulling the trigger in terms of making Mendes captain is because of his past and all the mistakes he made as a youngster. Yeah, I think that's the reason. I can't think of anything else. But in terms of Dasun as captain, I feel like what you said earlier about your observation about MSD running to Patrana and saying, "Yo, it's okay, don't worry about it," all that stuff. I think Dasun doesn't do that as much as he should, right? I think that if he becomes more of a proactive captain on those kind of counts, it would be great. And also, you made an excellent point about how Dasun probably should have bowled more in the middle overs and protected Patrana for the death, especially when he was not having the best of times during the middle against Pakistan. So so I think you're right. I think in terms of strategy, it's tough also because again, Dasun's not playing with a stacked deck, right? Most of these teams are playing with a stacked deck, meaning like a really good team, right? India have a complete team, Pakistan have a complete team, New Zealand have a complete team, South Africa have a complete team. Australia have a complete team, but they're just not clicking for whatever reason, right? Um, but Sri Lanka don't have a complete team, right? We are missing our premier leg spinner. We're missing our premier pace bowler. Uh, so we aren't playing with 100% resources. We're playing with like 75% resources, and we almost beat Pakistan, right? Literally, we were 25 runs away from beating Pakistan, right? And even against South Africa, it wasn't that bad a performance when you come to think of it. It was just that the bowling was, a bit awry, but like all right. But let's be honest, like if Wanindu Asarang and Dushman Chamir were there, we were chasing 370 in that match, right? And then that 328 might have been a win, right? Or it might have been a very close loss, right? And Pakistan would most likely have been a win, right? Because a lot of the Pakistan players are weak to leg spin, Wanindu style of leg spin, right? They're very good against pace, but against Wanindu style of leg spin, they struggle, right? So just we have to look at it in terms of the resources that are provided for us during the time. It's easy for us to go as fans and say, oh look, our team was poorly picked, this was bad, this is bad. But let's be honest here. Look, I think yesterday, I was it Aruna or was it someone else? Who was the other guy with Aruna who was commenting a lot? It was I think it was something breakdown.
Yes, sports breakdown. Yeah.
Sports breakdown, right? So they were making some really good points. I loved their questions. I was like, I was super pleased looking at their questions. Aruna sports breakdown, excellent questions from yesterday, right? Loved it. So I think one of the questions was like, oh, why isn't Astapan playing? Fair enough. Good point. See, for me, Binner is the best left arm bowler. But the problem with Binner is, as I love to joke with him whenever I see him, is he's injured every other game, right? Right. So to play a long tournament like this, especially having to bowl 10 overs at a time, it's difficult to manage Binner. But Binner would be like Abamarco Jansen. He'd have the same utility. But Binner is a wilier bowler. So we'd actually get a lot more purchase out of Binner. It's just that we'd have to manage him throughout the tournament. And that's going to be tough, which is why Dilshan Madhushankar is playing. Right? And I feel like Dilshan Madhushankar must play because we need a left arm option. And clearly, left arm options have been working in this tournament because Bolt has been bowling well, Topley bowled well. Shine still hasn't found his groove yet, but it's only a matter of time before that guy finds his groove. Left arm.
And to be fair by Madhushankar, he got Imam and Babar in the power play.
Yes, of course, yeah. So and then Matisha is just having confidence issues. Like I don't think Matisha is like doing badly because he's unskilled. Not at all. I mean, when you're the emerging player of the tournament in the IPL, you're world class, right? There's no way around it, right? So right now Matisha is just facing confidence issues. But I'd still play Matisha over Kasun Rajitha or Lahiruk Kumara given the balance of the team because there can only be one pace bowler outside of Dilshan Madhushankar. You need to play Dasun as your middle over anchor, like just bowling in 4-5 overs in the middle, right? Something that he probably could have done better in the Pakistan match. And then you need your left arm orthodox. So Welgama must play, right? You cannot drop Welgama because there is no other left arm orthodox, and you must have a left arm orthodox. So the only question is, what do you do with Dushan Hemant? Because we need a leg spinner, right? So what do you do with Dushan Hemant? Right? Do you keep him in the bench? So that's the tough question, right? And so then how do you shuffle him around, right? So then if you want, okay, brilliant, let's do this. Name your ideal 11 with your reason.
Guys, I saw this coming. Whenever Anouk and I come out to a show, we have a certain agenda and we go off script entirely. But I'm glad to continue going off script because this is a pertinent issue and a pertinent question. And I'll give you my ideal playing 11 for the Aussie game. I would maybe leave KJP out. I think my rationale behind it now is with him nursing the shoulder injury. I don't think he's found the middle of the bat yet in his first 2 games. I mean, he didn't give himself a chance to against Pakistan, lashed out at a delivery outside off stump, and was gone early on. And we've seen this. And I think this cements SLC's rationale for bringing Dimuth back into the fray ahead of the qualifiers. They said they wanted some stability at the top. On the two occasions when KJP has failed after his comeback, the Asia Cup final, we don't need to go back to that fateful day at R. Premadasa, and the other day where he put Kusal Mendis and Patum under a lot of pressure early on. I think especially when he's not 100% match fit, I think it's a negative expected value out of KJP at this point. So I bring Dimuth in to open with Patum. I mean, you'll have the leading run scorer or the second leading run scorer of the comp at number 3. Allow him to continue to play his natural game. Even if Kusal Mendis comes out to bat in the first or second over, I want him to play his natural game. Whenever Kusal plays his natural game, it's fun to watch, and he also delivers. So Kusal Mendis at number 3 for me. I'll have Sadira at number 4, who has been perhaps the find of the Sri Lankan team over the past 12 to 18 months. I've thoroughly enjoyed seeing him back. Long overdue. We know he's been sidelined for various reasons for the past 7-8 years, but he's come back with vengeance, and that's been great to see. Charit at number 5, although I don't think Charit is in form. Even in that knock against South Africa, he was quite lucky throughout that innings and threw his wicket away against Pakistan. Purely for the sake of, and this is where I start becoming a tad controversial, so forgive me, Anouk, this is where I go off script a tad. Dasun bats at number 6 for me. I bring in Dushan Hemant at number 7. I play Mahesh Tikshana. I play Wellalage at number 8, Tikshana at number 9, Madhushank at number 10, and either Rajat or Kumar. I mean, we're not spoiled for choices. I mean, these are not the best 2 picks, but for the sake of completing 11, I play either of them. And I have a rationale behind it. It's not that I don't think Patina has it in him to come back, but because of what he's been through over the past 2 games and the aftermath, with a lot of criticism going his way, I don't think he's in the right frame of mind to play a big must-win game against Australia on Monday. And Australia will be under pressure as well, right? They're worse off than us. They're 9th on the table. I don't know why the Dutch don't make a bigger scene out of this for being on top of Australia in the table right now. But yeah, that would be my playing 11. And Anouk, before I hear yours, a quick additional take here. I will go so far as saying we have the weakest bench out of all 10 teams that are in India right now.
Yeah.
If you take the bench we had against Pakistan, you have Kumar and Rajat, and with no disrespect to either of them, they'd struggle to find a slot in any playing 11 of the other 10 teams, in my opinion. And that includes Netherlands for me, who have the likes of Van Meekeren and Van Beek, who would be their top 2 fast bowlers. Then you have Dimuth Karunaratne, who is, in my books, arguably our best ever test opener. Perhaps that's not something to even kind of have an argument about because his stats back him up. But he has not done his legacy any good by coming in to an ODI setup when he's clearly not made for the format. And then you have a guy who's only played 2 ODIs, including one dead rubber as a qualifier against West Indies in Dushan Hemant. Brilliant fieldsman. I think I'll give it to him. Dushan Hemant and Ashane Bandara are 2 greatest fielders in Sri Lankan cricket right now. But you can't take someone to a World Cup for just being a brilliant fielder. So that is my concern. This is not my ideal playing 11. There are so many what-ifs around Sri Lankan cricket and what it could have been if we had everyone fully fit, if we had Wanindu and Chamira. But that's my playing 11 for you. What's yours, Anouk?
Before I continue, you dropped Dhananjay De Silva.
Yep. Yes, I did.
Why?
So I'm actually curating this table, and I'll actually release it on the ION cricket page tonight, hopefully. I was looking, I've titled it A Tale of Sixers and Sevens. Dhananjay De Silva, for me, is one of our most technically gifted batsmen. But if you don't play him in the top 5 in an ODI, I don't think he does himself any justice coming into bat at number 6. And the stats that I won't bring it up now, but I will share it on the Ionicon page once I'm done with the table. Out of all the top 8 teams in the World Cup this year, Dhananjay and Dasun are the only 2 batsmen who bat at 6 and 7 who have sub 30 averages. Fine. That's fine. We've had so many great batsmen at 6 and 7 who haven't had brilliant averages. But then I look at strike rates. And out of all 20 batsmen who bat at 6 and 7 in the World Cup, Dhananjay is the only one with a strike rate of sub 80. He has a strike rate of 76 or 77 batting at number 6 for Sri Lanka. And when you bat at number 6, especially in these conditions in India, you're expected to up the ante. You're comparing him with the likes of David Miller, Hardik Pandya, comparing him with the likes of Joss Butler, Glenn Phillips, and Cameron Green. So that's tough company to be around without the need to make any comparisons. And because I kind of feel the need for us to change things up a bit and to give Dasun a few more overs to settle in as well, I think by pushing him up the order to number 6, we might just give him the confidence he needs to thrive.
So that's an excellent point that you made about DDS. And I'm going to say something which, so I'll tell you my 11, right? Very similar to yours, actually, just a few changes in terms of the positions. So I would also bring in Dimuth in. But the thing is, because Mendes is in such good form inside the power play, and he's been generally batting inside the power play, in the practice matches and here, right, in the main draw. What I would do is open with him and bring Pathum Nissanka down to one down, and open with Mendes and Dimuth, because you need that impetus up front, right? All the big teams, like all the teams that are on a winning path and on plus CB path in this World Cup, have an extremely aggressive opening duo. And if we have both Pathum and Dimuth as our opening duo,
with our openers, you're going to be in a position where KM walks in early anyway.
Well, with KJP playing, because he has the Ishan Kishan role, right? He's the plus EV player. At least he's given the plus EV mandate, right? So the thing is, we need at least one aggressive player opening the bat, right? So I mean, if you take a look, like in South Africa, it's the Cock. In England, it's both of them, right? In England, it's all of them actually, when you think about it, right? Except for Root, everyone else, right? Even in Australia, it's Warner. There's always one aggressive open, always at minimum, right? So if we have both Pathum and Dimuth, they're not aggressive, right? Pathum has his days where he lit like I don't know, like 2 really good overs in the power play and then tap the next 5, right? So that doesn't count, right? So what I'm saying is like one consistently like aggressive opener. So I'd say Kusal to open, Dimuth at 2, Pathum at 3, and because Pathum anyway 1, 2, 3 doesn't really matter to Pathum, right? Because his job is basically to stabilize and drag, right? So in case Kusal Mendes gets out, but then Pathum and Dimuth can rebuild, and then give space to our number 4, which is Sadira, right? Number 5 is between Charith and DDS, and I'm falling into the exact same category that you were at. And then that decision would be based on game strength, and I'll explain what that means. Number 6 would be Dushan Hemantha, and number 7 would be Dasun. There's a reason for this as well. Why Dasun's at 7? 8 is Vella. 9 would be
Tikshana.
Dilshan Madhushankar, Kasun Rajadhar. So Kasun Rajadhar would be at 10, Dilshan Madhushankar at 11. Now, I think 1, 2, 3 we've discussed. 4, Sadhiran, nothing needs to be said there. Charith Asalanka versus DDS. Who would you play there and why? Okay, so if we're up against a team like Australia, who so far in this tournament have shown weakness to off spin, right? Which is strange, right? But they weren't comfortable against Ashwin. They were comfortable against Ashwin in the first 5 overs, I think, of Ashwin's, and in the last 5, after Kuldeep got them, like pinned them down, then they started like meandering a bit. And then who did Australia face yesterday? They faced South Africa, right? They didn't really face off spin. Okay, so against Australia, I guess Ashwin is just that good. So maybe off spin isn't the answer there. So then at that stage, you'd have to think, okay, how many right-handers do we have? How many left-handers do we have? What's the balance, right? So we have, it goes right, left, right. Then right, Beruwalage left. Right. So then you'd need at least one left hand in the middle of this. So then for me, I'd pick Charith. Right? Yep. So I agree with you, Charith at 5. DDS would have to be dropped. And that's really unfortunate because DDS has been excellent this year. He's just excellent. Okay. It's just that he just hasn't, as you said, number 6 doesn't work for him, right? He's a number 4, number 5 player. You can't play him at 6. You're not getting the utility. You're not getting the EV out of him. Yeah?
And just as Hari posted a comment, Anouk, Hari was our former cricket analyst. on the TCA, wants to join us
Yeah,
on the show as well for a bit, for a few questions. So I'll just
yeah.
allow Harry in. Hi, Harry.
Hey,
I'm
how's it going?
going to
Hey,
dump you in
man.
the deep. I know I'm going to dump you in the deep end here. Uh, what's your playing 11 for Sri Lanka looking ahead to the Aussie game?
I think top order. I think it's a bit of a tough situation right now with KJP not being in the best form. But I think we'll give it. I would give it maybe one more game because we did see the quality he showed against Bangladesh very aggressively starting out. But I think just like you both of you discussed, Dhananjay De Silva needs to come up the order because I think it's a waste. Not only of his skills being that low down, but also Rob's chances of people who could maybe take time and settle in and go for a bigger, go for a more grander finish. Guys like Dasun, even though he is in not the greatest form, perhaps if he does have a little bit more time in the crease, we may be able to extract some more out of him. And I think as with the bowlers, I think spin is going to be our way to attack, especially off spin, just like Anouk said. So I think it's kind of similar to what Anouk just described in terms of playing 11.
So, Harry, that was actually excellent, and I love the point that you made about DDS like being too low at number 6, and you won't be getting the utility of it. You're right, 100%. I agree, and it's unfortunate because DDS is such a good player, right? But
Yeah.
in terms of the balance of this team, you just can't play him.
Exactly. And I think even, his skill in rotating the strike through the middle overs, right? You need someone there who's going to be dependable, who's going to get those singles, give the power hitters a platform upon which they have that freedom to go. Because, it's all well and said, saying, oh, you have to go to the free license, you've got to play ball cricket. But if your low order does not have a dependable score up ahead of them, it's very difficult to kind of accelerate and take those risks, knowing that if you fail, that's going to be a very low total for your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we've noticed also in Australia, both the India match and the South Africa matches, you need a wrist spinner to complement your finger spin, right? So, and they've shown weakness to left arm orthodox specifically. Jadeja they had issues with, Maharaj they had issues with, right? And because of that, Kuldeep and Shamsi were able to get the best out of themselves in both those matches because Jadeja was throttling them on one side and then they tried to attack Kuldeep and then Kuldeep kept getting wickets. And then same thing with Maharaj and Shamsi a bit later on in the match, right? But the point is, Wellalage has a good matchup against the Australians, right? So you have to play left arm orthodox. It's a non-factor, like you have to, right? Which means that Dushan Hemanta should probably get a game because Australia has shown weakness to leg spin or wrist spin in this tournament, right? So I know Dushan Hemanta by watching him through the regionals basically over the past 3 years, right? He bats at number 4 for BRC and he's basically a hitter. He's Dushan Hemanta is kind of the guy that just goes and whacks, right? He's not a consolidator. He's just an aggressive batsman. So in terms of our makeup, he would actually be a good number 6 if you give him the chance, right? I mean, theoretically at least. I've seen the guy play in real life, but theoretically, he's a good number 6 option. And the reason I make that Dasun number 7 is very simple: spin versus pace, right? Dasun is excellent against pace, not very good against spin, and Zampa's in that team, right? His leg spin matchup is Zampa, and that's not a good matchup, right? And generally, Zampa will be bowled out by the 30th over, 35th, 38th, which means the last 12 overs, Dasun at 7 against Hazelwood. We all know what happened last time, right?
A repeat of Palekele.
Exactly. That's what we're hoping for, right? Are they playing at Dharamsala? Where are they playing at, Viren?
They're playing in Lucknow, where South Africa played Australia yesterday.
All right. Okay. So you had a bat first, then. Right? But basically, we know that Dasun generally matches up well against Australia's fast bowlers, but not against Zampa. We know this, right? From historical data, we know.
And not against Karthik Mayappan of the UAE as well, with no disrespect to the UAE.
Of course. Mayappan, what a hat trick that. But we know that Dasun doesn't match up well against Zampa, but it matches up very well against the pace bowlers, right? So what you do is you have to protect Dasun at least under the 38th though. Like if there's only 1 over of Zampa left, it's okay. Like you can get the other guy to like tap Zampa out or whatever. It doesn't really matter, right? And then leave like a good 11 to 12 overs for Dasun to go after the pace bowlers, and that would be the perfect scenario for Sri Lanka. Well, I date. and then the rest of them go down. Now, why would I play Kasan Rajat over Lahira Kumara? Very simple reason. Kasan Rajat has better control than Lahira Kumara, right? I understand SLC's mindset about express pace. I get it, right? They've been espousing this theory for years, and I understand. But then we obviously had the perfect balance of control and pace in Chamira, right? So we had like a really good option, like a world class option, but we don't have that here. So now we have the option of control or pace or express. And in that situation, I'd go with control, Kasan Rajat, because even though Lahira Kumara had an excellent LPL that even I could never have predicted, like in my models, like there was no way he was going to have a good season, but he did, and that's props to him. That's amazing, right? But we've seen historically that Lahira Kumara in World Cups or multi-team tournament matches, that he doesn't have the mindset to continuously perform at the highest level consistently throughout the tournament. And I can take you back to the last World Cup with David Miller, where he had to defend 2 sixes against David Miller, and we all know what happened.
16 of the final over. To this day, I've not seen Lahira Kumar bowl a slow delivery or change or change.
Exactly, right? So I mean, but then that's the expected value when you play Lahira Kumara in a match, right? And I don't mean to be like a douche about this. It's just these are what the statistics are telling me, right? I'm just telling you what the statistics say, and the statistics when it comes to Lahira Kumara are true. He's very good in positions in pitches like England, New Zealand, Australia. He's excellent because he knows how to get the best purchase out of the pitch. But in flatter tracks like in Pakistan, in India, Sri Lanka, like the subcontinental wickets, he doesn't get that same purchase out of the wicket, and he doesn't get the best usage of his skills off of the subcontinental wickets as opposed to the Australian, New Zealand kind of wickets.
I also think, sorry to interrupt, but with Lahira Kumar, I think he's more. I feel personally, he's more someone we should bet on in the long run for Test cricket rather than the white ball format, because I think his pace does lend well. It also gives him good recovery time because you're not playing as frequently as you would play white ball. And also, I think when you look at his natural lengths, when he's not trying to emulate a certain other style or anything, it really works in Test cricket. He bowls that good hard length, and when it comes to ODI wickets, flatter wickets, and the lack of variations he does have, at least ODI friendly variations, it really lends him more towards Test. And I think pushing him towards that white ball side, is just unnecessary stress for him as a player. And I think that's something we need to look at on a broader scale as well, because we have a lot of players who play all three formats. I think it'd be much better we spread them out a bit better, have different horses for different courses. And I think also it would solve a bit of our injury crisis as well, where you have a lot more downtime for players, where you have some players. Of course, you will have certain players whose caliber merits them to play all three formats. But I think when you have a contingent that's focused just on the red ball, just on the white ball, it does serve much better going forward.
Well said. Well said, Hari, and well said, Anouk. So the title of the show was Mentality. Big game mentality. Yeah, I think we've strayed away from it. So as we slowly wrap up the show, I want to get back to it. There's no bigger occasion. There's no bigger occasion than playing in front of 132,000 fans at the Narendra Modi Stadium. There's also no bigger occasion than India v Pakistan, and you have the two forces combining tomorrow. It's going to be a big game, and we will be back for a preview show tomorrow before the toss. Anouk, my question to you, and Hari, I want you to follow up on this as well, is ahead of such a big game. It's been a good 10 years since India last won an ICC event. It was the Champions Trophy in 2013, which was the last ICC event that India won. It's been a good 6 years since Pakistan won an ICC event, winning the Champions Trophy against India in 2017. Thank you, Tisra Pereira, for that drop catch against Pakistan, but let's not go back there. Anouk, my question to you is, A, does Pakistan stand a chance? Provided the conditions, provided the atmosphere at the Narendra Modi Stadium, and also given the fact that their bowlers seem completely off color against us. Do you think Pakistan has a chance? And B, which youngsters are you looking forward to seeing on both sides tomorrow? And that ties in quite nicely with our question on performing well under pressure. So which youngsters would you like to see thrive tomorrow?
So when you say youngsters, I'm just going to go with in terms of experience, right? Because in Pakistan, they're all technically very young. So like guys like
Emphasis
Shaheen
on,
and them are like what, 22, 23, right? Like they're technically
emphasis on
young.
technically.
Huh?
Emphasis on technically.
Right? So South Shakil has been amazing. I'm just so impressed by the guy. Like he's really good. Shafiq was excellent, but Shafiq has been excellent. Like I think Shafiq played in the A-team tournament that happened in Sri Lanka like last month, right? And he performed superbly there as well, right? And so Shafiq, South Shakil from the batting lineup, from the bowling lineup. Uh, no youngsters to talk of, right? Like all experienced players: Hassan Ali, Shaheen, Haris Rauf, Nawaz, Shadab, Iftikhar. Like they're all like all this. So basically, in terms of youngsters, Shafiq and South Shakil. I think what I really liked about South Shakil was how he played in the Test match. He was excellent, right? Was it goal? It was goal, right? Where he scored.
Yeah, it was Saud Shakil and Abdullah Shafiq who single-handedly won that series for Pakistan. So
Exactly.
our nemesis returned to haunt us the other day.
Yeah, so like I was really impressed by them during the Test series, and then they proved it again in the Sri Lanka match, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing how they perform. Rizwan just does Rizwan things, it's just amazing, right? And Baba hasn't found form, right? So maybe tomorrow's the game, right? Pakistan, India. Baba tends to bring it, right? So I'm looking forward to that. I think Baba is going to come up with something. And then so that's Pakistan. India. I just really like this new India unit, man. Like I love the old school, like Ashwin Jadeja return, right? It's amazing, right? Like I love it. Kuldeep is there.
And Kuldeep as well. That spin
Kuldeep,
trio is deadly.
New Kuldeep is amazing, right? So like they were like in the Australia match, they were showing like the differences of Kuldeep and like the evolution of Kuldeep over the past 3 years, right? And like how he's like like worked hard in the gym, how he's like increased his pace, his variation. Like I love that about Kuldeep. That's amazing, right? And that dedication. And he saw the results, that Warner delivery. Like how do you play that, right? One where he got the cotton ball, right? Like Kuldeep was amazing. The ball to Maxwell, like wow, that was a ripper, right? Like there's nothing Maxwell could have done there, right? So other than maybe just defend it, but then Maxwell is Maxwell, right? Maxwell is one of the greatest. It happens, right? So like I'm looking forward to Kuldeep, looking forward to seeing Ashwin and Jadeja. So who else am I looking forward to? From the batting lineup, I think Kishan's due for a big one, right? I think Kishan's coming in and doing something. I'm looking forward to that. I love watching Hardik bat. And yeah, so that's about all I can say in terms of the youth and the mentality. But what I really like about India, I'll tell you this about India, right? What I like about them is that over the past few years, all of them have this mindset of the English mindset, which is we're going to win. We're going to go out there, we're going to play our game. We're going to go at 100 miles an hour and crash if we have to, but we trust ourselves to win. Right? Like I like that India have adopted this mentality, but also have guys like Rohit, also have guys like Kohli, like KL that are like, you know what, if not Jadeja in the back, to say, you know what, you kids, y'all go for it. We're there to stabilize things if necessary, right? I love that. Right? And Pakistan have that too, right? But only like I'd say it's just Babar and Rizwan. After that, it's like Shakil has that mindset as well, and I love that. I love that Shakil has that mature mindset so young, right? And after Shakil, probably Shadab. So it goes down to Shadab, right? Yep. So that's probably going to be the difference maker, the batting, because the bowling, I'd say advantage is to Pakistan, because you can never say with Pakistan, right? Pakistan are the team that can beat the best team in history on one day and then lose to like the worst team in history the next day, right? Like they are that kind of high variance, right? But you can never count out Pakistan ever, like especially in a World Cup, especially against India. Pakistan are absolute magicians, right? So like you can never say, right? And this bowling lineup on their day is unplayable, right? So I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. I am.
Yeah. Even though we scored 345 against this bowling lineup, things didn't go our way. But
okay, so we scored 345 against them. I'm telling you that if we play them again, there's a very high likelihood that we get up 180. I'm not even joking.
Exactly.
Exactly bowling lineup.
Right? I'll take the 345. And thanks to Imamul Haq for dropping Kusal Mendis early on. Harry, for those of you joining us who don't know this, Hari is an Indian fan, an ardent Indian cricket fan. So, Hari, over to you. What's your prediction for tomorrow?
I think, what's going to be one thing that a lot of Indian fans in the Indian camp is going to be really concerned about is whether Shubman Gill is in good form and if
Sorry,
he's in
Anouk,
good
is
health.
Hari lagging big time for you?
Wait, let me try. Let me cut out. Is it better now? Can you hear me at least?
Anouk, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm fine.
All right.
Sorry,
I'll
because Hari.
just.
Oh, you can hear Hari as well. Hari, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Okay. So no worries. So I think one thing that anyone invested in India's campaign is going to be looking out for is Shubman Gill's fitness. I think if he is fit, right, and if he is in good playing condition, it is going to be a huge thing for India. Like we said, like Anouk discussed earlier, he's one of those younger guys who has that guns blazing kind of mindset, and he's also very technically sound, and who's someone who's had a very good track record at Ahmedabad as well. We've seen throughout the years, I think a majority of his century does come from these grounds. So it would be a very big advantage for India having him in there. And I think when you look at Pakistan as well, I think
Apologies, guys. There seemed to be a connection issue with Hari. Anouk, before we wrap this show up, my final question to you, just for this segment, is if you had a chance to go back 2-3 months ago and had a chance to speak to our Sri Lankan youngsters ahead of this World Cup, the kind of abuse they're receiving from SL after both those games. We still have 7 games to go in this World Cup. I know many people have lost hope on us reaching the semi-finals, etc. You know me, I'm the most optimistic Sri Lankan cricket fan, and I still think we do have a chance. Ahead of this game against Australia, if you're Mahela Jayawardene or Chris Silverwood or anyone else in the think tank, how would you instill a World Cup mentality in these youngsters? And how will you revive their confidence? I'm pretty sure they've lost a lot of confidence. I'm pretty sure that will also impact our batsmen because you don't know what's a good enough total to defend now against these bowlers who've been taken to the cleaners over the first 2 games. Is it as easy as saying Operation Reset and take this as a 7-game tournament? Or do you need to just address a few issues and just continue on the run we've been on?
Well, okay, so 2 things, right? Firstly, okay, the way that I do it is I'm just like, okay, look, we can win. We can always win. There's always a way out, right? So me as a person, I always would encourage them to say, you know what, it's not over yet. If we can win all 7 games, we still make the semis. Even if we win 6 games, we can still make the semis with net run rate. We can pull off magic somehow, right? So we lost 2 games. It is what it is, right? We lost badly to South Africa, lost a close one to Pakistan, but we're on the upward trajectory, right? Lost a harsh one, almost won the next one. We're on an upward path, even if rock bottom was our starting point, right? It's an upward path now, right? Yeah. So you guys are doing good, right? At least we're on the right track. So I mean, there's nothing to tell the batsman, right? Just what do you tell KJP? If you're playing KJP, just be like, do your thing, right? If you score, we score 350 easy. If you don't, well, let's hope for the best, right? I tell DDS, I'm really sorry, right? We have to play Dushan as a tactical move here in this match, right? And that sucks, right, for DDS because DDS doesn't deserve to be dropped. He does not. He doesn't, right? But for the sake of the balance of the team, especially against this Australia that has clearly shown weaknesses to certain styles of bowling with certain pockets in the match, where Dushan Hemantha is actually a better tactical move than Dhananjay De Silva in this situation, specifically for Australia, it is what it is, right? And because playing Dhananjay at 6 is not a plus EV move for Sri Lanka, it's unfortunate, given that Dhananjay has been consistent. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, right? To Dushan Hemantha, I'd say, okay, kid, here's a chance, right? Australia on the back foot, wing it. Let's see it. Let it rip, right? To Dasun, I'd say, you know what, Dasun? It's okay, right? You've faced worse. That's what I can tell Dasun. You faced worse, right? This is the 4 years. You have this strength and fortitude of iron right now, right? Over the past 4 years of your captaincy in Sri Lanka, right? Honestly, it's one of the most underappreciated jobs, right? I mean, even when we won the Asia Cup, no one really credited Dasun, right? And but Dasun was like a key factor in that, just in terms of rallying the guys together for that Asia Cup win. But he didn't get the credit there, and then he just got absolutely trashed in this Asia Cup, right? So like, I mean, to Dasun, all I can say is, look, you faced worse. Literally, you faced worse, right? Some people just say it for fun. No, you've actually faced it, right? So like, just rally the troops. You know, you're up against Australia, historically an excellent opponent for you, right? You put one of the best innings of your life against these guys not too long ago, right? They are down, right? This is the perfect time for you to come back up, right? You had an excellent performance against South Africa, right? Didn't get going against Pakistan, but that's okay, right? Here's your chance to really make your move again. You're playing in a place that's favorable to you, which is Indian conditions, where Dasun is a monster in Indian conditions, right? So just do you, back yourself, do what you did at Palakade, and do it in a ground, do it in an environment where history favors you, right? To Wellalage, I'd be like, kid, just do what you're doing. Like, there's just work on your lens in the nets. That's all we can ask from you, right? Just look at the tape, look at where Maxwell's been struggling, right? Look at where Labuschagne and Steven Smith got bowled by Jadeja. Of course, they were rippers, right? And see what works, right? And then bowl those lens. That's what you do, right? To Wellalage, to Matisha, I just take him to a corner and be like, listen, kid, don't worry about it, right? It happens, right? Just work on your lens, and we're just with you. We're with you. We're bringing you back into the matches, right? We're just taking you out because we know you're not in the right headspace right now. It's fine. Just work on your lens, right? And we'll be with you. Don't worry. You're getting another chance. And to the rest of them, just say, do what you guys have been doing. That's all. Madhushanka, of course, just be like, look, bad games happen. It's okay. We believe in it. But basically, just you have to go to each and every one of them and say something that's specialized for them. And then that's and to Menda and to Sadira, just be like, you guys do you. There's nothing for us to say to you guys, right? So that's basically it. That's how I do it, and that's how we did it back in the day, at least in the franchise.
Wow, Anouk, we need to get you off to India ahead of the game against Australia on Monday. That was your perfection right there. Hari, if you can, Hari, can you hear us now?
Yeah, can hear.
Nope.
Can you hear me?
Lost Hari. Okay, Anouk, two things from me before we wrap this up. Firstly, Anouk, it was a pleasure having you back on the Ion Cricket, and I can't wait to have you here for many more shows going forward. It's always a pleasure talking cricket with you.
No, thank you for having me, Red.
To all of Sri Lankan cricket fans, I've already received feedback saying that we focus on Sri Lanka a tad too much. But if Star Sports can get away focusing on India, if Fox Cricket can get away talking about Australia, if Sky Sports can get away talking about England, the Ion Cricket can get away talking about Sri Lanka. And I know this might sound quite ironic, but after our loss against South Africa, we started our long walk to freedom as a Sri Lankan cricket team. And this is going to be a long walk to some form of to some form of victory over the course of the next 7 games. We're not expecting our team to win all 7. We're being quite realistic here. We're not expecting them to win 6 out of 7. But all we could ask of Dasun Shanak and the lads is to give us a fight, continue fighting hard, and give us a performance to be proud of each time they go out to the centre. Anything can happen. If we do beat Australia on Monday, our next game is against Netherlands. With no disrespect to Netherlands, if we win 2 on the trot, that's the type of momentum we need in a World Cup run. So anything can happen. Stay tuned to the Ion Cricket. Hari, Anouk, if he's free, Merle and I will be back tomorrow to preview the India vs Pakistan game. Cheers. Take care.
Thanks, guys.